This cleaner will never be a CEO.
You're just a cleaner, never a CEO. Cole Vance's voice cut through the room, sharp, cruel, echoing against the glass walls. Laughter followed, his own, cold and satisfied. Chloe Rivera froze, her mop dripping onto the floor. The technicians lowered their eyes, embarrassed, but no one spoke. Her hands trembled, but her gaze stayed steady. She didn't argue. She didn't beg. She simply looked at him, eyes burning with something he couldn't name. Pride, anger, a secret waiting for its moment. What no one in that room knew was that the woman being mocked held the power to decide their future, and when the truth came out, it would turn the empire upside down. Before we begin this emotional story, tell us in the comments from which city you're watching, and don't forget to leave your like to keep following us. The room hummed like a spacecraft ready to lift, blue light washing over glass and chrome. Screens ringed the oval table, stacked with dashboards, traffic spikes, encrypted tunnels, blinking nodes like constellations. In the center sat Cole Vance, blazer midnight blue, smile sharpened to a blade. He held a printout as if it were a scepter. At his flanks, Ethan Brooks and Lucas Parker pretended to study their keyboards, the measured stillness of men who knew a storm had a name. Near the far wall, Chloe Rivera slid a mop along the floor, latex gloves whispering, eyes down but listening, the cleaning lady everyone stepped around. Cole's laugh cracked the quiet. "Look at these numbers," he said, tapping the page. "Quarter over quarter, we crush. That's what leadership looks like." He lifted his gaze, pinning Chloe as if she were a smudge on the glass. And some people think proximity to greatness teaches greatness. It doesn't. A mop doesn't become a strategy by staring at a balance sheet. The mop paused. Chloe's fingers tightened, a pulse skimming her wrist. She didn't look up. Not yet. Ethan cleared his throat, then stopped. Lucas flicked a glance at Chloe, then back to the screens. A warning ticker scrolled lazily across one monitor, routine network noise, and vanished. The air conditioner exhaled. Cole leaned back, the leather sighing under him. "Gentlemen," he said, "we're here to finalize the Stratus contract. It will make us untouchable, and untouchable men." His eyes slid to Chloe again. "Don't need advice from the poor maid who empties their trash." Lucas's jaw set. Ethan forced a smile that didn't stick. The silence stretched, web-thin and trembling. Chloe shifted her weight, one foot behind the other, chin steady. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. The bucket wheels clicked softly as they rolled. She moved around the table, careful not to brush anyone's chair, careful not to exist too loudly. Cole's grin widened, the kind that invited witnesses. "You know what she said to me last week?" he asked the technicians. "She said, 'Sir, the server room door sticks.'" He spread his hands, eyes sparkling. "Imagine that. The millionaire CEO needs help with a door. Maybe next she'll tell me how to run my board." Ethan exhaled through his nose. Lucas gave a laugh, a quick exhale that sounded like apology. Chloe's eyes flicked to a screen, just a flick, then returned to the floor. Her mop traced a clean, deliberate stroke, as if underlining something invisible. "Cole," Ethan ventured, "we should run the Stratus latency tests again before—" Cole snapped his fingers, not at Ethan but at Chloe. "You. What's your name again?" She lifted her gaze, calm and steady. "Chloe," she said. "Chloe," Cole repeated, savoring it. "Chloe, I want you to hear this because it might save you a lifetime of confusion." He pushed from the table and stood, steps measured, shoes whispering against the spotless floor she'd made. He stopped just inside her space, smile bright as neon and twice as cold. "You're just a cleaner, never a CEO. Learn the difference and life gets easier." Chloe didn't flinch. Her eyes, hazel and unblinking, held his for a beat longer than comfort allowed. Her fingers relaxed. She dipped the mop into the bucket, let the water drip like a second hand ticking, then slid past him without a word. Cole's laughter returned, ricocheting off glass. Ethan stared at his hands. Lucas watched Chloe's steady path, as if she drew a line none of them had noticed before. On the far wall, a small status icon twitched red, then went dark, like an ember deciding whether to breathe. Cole raised the printout again. "Now," he said, "let's talk invincibility." The icon flared red a second time. The room didn't know it yet, but the glass was about to sing. The glass doors sealed with a hush, trapping the cool, sterile air. Cole Vance paced behind the head chair like a TV host who owned the network, the printout now a prop he could stab at. Invincibility, he repeated, rolling the word in his mouth. That's what we sell, gentlemen, and invincibility means order, everyone in their place. He stopped where Chloe had just finished a perfect mirrored crescent on the floor. In their place, he said louder, eyes on her. Ethan, Lucas, what's the most important variable in this room? Security posture, Ethan said automatically. Uptime, Lucas added. Cole turned to Chloe with a lazy smile. Wrong. The most important variable is who makes decisions. And that, Chloe, will never be you. Chloe wrung the mop head, the water spiraling like a thin tornado before settling. Her gaze softened, almost bored, like a person listening to a distant radio. She slid the bucket 6 inches to the left so it wouldn't reflect on the glass tabletop. A small, careful act of order. Cole's voice warmed with performative charm. You know, I admire diligence. I truly do. My mother kept a pristine kitchen. She taught me. Shine the surface and people think everything beneath is clean. He nodded toward Chloe's bucket. You'd be magnificent in optics, but strategy? A half laugh. Leave that to the people who can reach the top shelf. Lucas's smile died halfway up his face. Ethan looked at Chloe, then at the floor, as if caught between shame and payroll. The screen cycled, a blue carousel of graphs. A tiny warning flickered at the edge of a dashboard and vanished, like a moth testing a bulb. Chloe leaned the mop against the wall, adjusted her gloves, and straightened the seam of her apron. Do you need me to step out? She asked, level, neutral. Step out? Cole widened his arms. Why would I dismiss my audience? You're part of the cautionary tale. He pointed the page at the technicians. This is the Billionaire reality, boys. Some people architect the skyline, some people wipe the fingerprints from the lobby glass. His finger tracked back to Chloe. Say it with me. I'm just a cleaner. Silence took a chair. Chloe's lips parted as if to speak, then closed. She studied Cole's face with the patience of someone reading fine print. I know what I am, she said softly. Cole heard lack of confrontation and mistook it for concession. He grinned, hungry for the laugh. Good, because this is not a charity. We build empires here. Contract marriages, sympathy hires, sob stories, none of that. He turned to Ethan and Lucas. If a homeless woman walked in claiming she could code, would you hand her root access? Of course not. Cole, Ethan warned, voice low. What? Cole snapped, then smoothed his tone to silk. Don't be fragile. This is New York, not a yoga retreat. He flicked a glance at Chloe's face. Tell me, Chloe, if you were in my chair, what would your big move be? Trade the mop for a merger. Chloe stepped closer until the cold spill of a screen painted her cheek. If I were in your chair, she said, I'd watch the perimeter. Cole laughed, head tipping back. Adorable. Lucas glanced at the main monitor. Did you see that? He murmured. See what? Cole asked, still smiling for an audience of 2 and a woman he refused to see. The endpoint map just blinked. Chloe's eyes shifted to the same corner, then cooled. She pulled the mop back into her hands with a quiet scrape. Cole rounded on Ethan and Lucas. Focus, the Stratus numbers. Impress me, or I'll find people who can. Ethan swallowed. Yes, sir. Cole planted his hands on the table and leaned in, teeth bright, voice low. Repeat after me, Chloe. I'm just a cleaner, never a CEO. The room held its breath. Chloe's jaw flexed once. A distant rack fan spooled up, a metallic whir like a warning throat clearing. She didn't repeat him. She didn't move. She only looked at the reflected city skimming across the tabletop, and in that reflection, a single red square pulsed alive. Small, insistent, impossible to unsee. Cole Vance treated the table like a stage and the printout like scripture. He swept it through the air, and the wall of screens mirrored his swagger, KPIs blooming, revenue staircasing up, a skyscraper of numbers he'd built brick by brick and brag by brag. This, he said, tapping a column that pulsed electric blue, is what separates architects from custodians. Vision, nerve, precision. His smile caught light. A millionaire CEO is just a rookie with luck. A billionaire builds a weather system and decides when it rains. He pivoted to the technicians. Ethan, what do you see? Ethan forced a focus he didn't feel. Sustained growth in enterprise, he said. No churn spike. Stable authentication. And you, Lucas? Market share ascent, Lucas murmured. The curves clean, minimal noise. Cole nodded, pleased with the chorus. He flicked the page toward Chloe, as if the air between them were a catwalk. And our cleaning lady sees a perfect floor. We're all contributing. Chloe's hands paused at the bucket rim. She met his look for a heartbeat, then went back to tightening a glove seam until it lay perfectly flat. A small sound, latex against wrist, cut the quiet, and then nothing but the low burr of server fans. Cole strolled to the glass wall, his reflection dressed in power. I grew up over a garage, he said conversationally, the way people recite folklore after they've had the ending rewritten in gold. My father told me men come in two types, those who sign the front of checks and those who sign the back. He didn't mention the ones who scrub the table where the checks get passed around. He glanced at Chloe. Maybe because he didn't think they'd try to grab a pen. Lucas's eyes flicked to Chloe, then away. Ethan pretended to be fascinated by a latency readout. A tiny alert winked at the bottom of a dashboard, then buried itself again like a fish returning to dark water. Cole turned the charm up, effortless and mean. People think power is a personality trait. It's not, it's a policy, written here. He tapped his chest. If you let sentiment in, if you start confusing lanes, you end up with a poor maid advising you on cyber risk, or some charity narrative about a single mother teaching a boardroom ethics. That's how companies rot. Chloe moved around the table, aligning a coaster that had drifted a single degree. She was silent, her presence a counter-melody to his trumpet. When Cole stepped into her path, she angled around him without touching, a geometry of refusal. Notice the verticals, Cole went on, sweeping at the screens. Fintech, defense, health data. Everyone wants our fortress. Our clients sleep because we don't. He hovered a finger over the real-time map. We ring the city with iron. No cracks, no charity backdoors, no pity hires. We don't fall for sob stories about a homeless woman who once had a shot or a secret revealed. He smirked. No shocking truth is going to walk in here with a mop and rewrite my code. He waited for the laugh that didn't come. Ethan's jaw ticked. Lucas's knuckles went white around a stylus. Chloe set the mop against the wall. The room listened to itself. Cole's voice softened to something dangerous. Understand this. Nobody gets to the crown through revenge fantasies. There's no fairy shortcut to the throne. He stared at Chloe until the moment threatened to snap. You were hired to clean, so clean. The rest of us will keep the lights on. Chloe looked at the ceiling, at a single recessed bulb that buzzed a shade too loud, and then at the lower left corner of the main display where an unremarkable process spiked and fell. Her eyes returned to neutral. Cole clapped his hands once, crisp as a blade. Back to work. Show me numbers that make the city blink. The wall of screens obliged, brilliant and obedient. In the corner, that small red ember pulsed again, longer this time, stubborn as a heartbeat that refused to be ignored. No one acknowledged it out loud. Cole raised his chin, basking. This is control, he said. Across the glass, the red pulse became a line. It started as a tremor in the glass, a tremble along the bottom edge of the main display, like a ripple under ice. Then the room blinked. The dashboards hiccuped, once, twice, and every graph fell down the stairs. Noise avalanched across the screens, red banners, jagged lines, a snowfall of error codes that refused to settle. Ethan straightened so fast his chair rolled back and bumped the wall. What was that spike? Artifact, Cole said without looking. Refresh the nodes. Lucas's fingers flew, keystrokes lacing the air. The refresh rolled, and the room answered with a siren chirp, brief and surgical. Across the perimeter map, endpoints winked out in a spreading circle, little lights drowning one by one. A banner bled across the center monitor. Warning, data alert. Not artifact, Ethan whispered. It's live. Cole's smile froze like a photograph. Contain, he said. Quarantine the segment, null the session keys. Already trying, Lucas said. Another window bloomed. strings of unfamiliar symbols threading through the company's backbone like ivy through brick. The code didn't march. It flowed, a clever river cutting new paths where walls should have been. The fans rose in pitch, a metallic swarm. In the glass table, Chloe's reflection stood very still, mop at her side like a staff. She watched the storm gather on the screens the way sailors learn the color of dangerous water, quiet, focused, unblinking. "Who authorized this patch?" Cole snapped. "Ethan, answer me." "No patch," Ethan said, jaw tight. "This isn't ours." The siren chirped again, longer. Systems panel access escalation detected. Authentication logs scrolled too fast to read, as if the building itself were hyperventilating. Lucas launched a firewall rule, then another. Each one swallowed and spat back with a mocking echo. Denied. Cole slammed a palm on the table. "Cut the backbone. Air gap. Now." "We can't," Lucas said, voice thinning. "They've hooked our failover. If we cut, they detonate the backup. Look." He dragged a window. A neat little black box labeled with their own internal shorthand. A thing only someone intimate would know. Ethan's face drained. "They've mapped our runbooks." Cole leaned in so close the screen light turned his eyes alien. "Then hit them where they live." "We can't find where they live," Ethan said. "They're ghosted through our telemetry. The signatures mutate every 60 seconds. The lights dipped, came back. On the side monitor, customer dashboards began to gray out, one by one, like storefronts pulling shutters on a windy night. A push alert popped in the corner. "Client incident inquiry. Urgent." Cole's voice climbed. "Fix it, you hear me? Fix it. I don't pay you to watch it burn." Lucas tried a deep packet inspection. Ethan spun up an out-of-band console. The code laughed, if code could laugh, by presenting a cartoon simple ransom splash on a subsystem they never used for UI. It wasn't about money. It was dominance written in glyphs and timing. Cole's composure cracked. A seam. "Who is it?" he demanded. "Name them." "Doesn't matter who," Ethan said, eyes racing. "What matters is they're already inside." Chloe took one step closer. The blue glow washed her face, cut her features into resolve. She tilted her head at a sequence that fluttered like a moth at a porch light. Her fingers flexed inside the gloves, then stilled. Cole pointed at her without looking away from the carnage. "Out," he barked. "Get out of my sight." No one moved. The room had narrowed to a tunnel of alarms and breath. The bucket's wheels clicked once in the quiet between siren chirps. On the center screen, the fortress crumpled, a slow, humiliating kneel. A final banner stamped itself across their crown jewel cluster. Route compromised. The glass doors sighed as the building shifted power modes. Somewhere below, a generator coughed awake. Above the siren, above the hiss of fans, came a sound small enough to be missed, a steady tapping, like someone softly knocking from inside the walls. Ethan's voice was a rasp. "They're going for the vault." Cole's throat worked. "Over my dead company," he said, but the bravado didn't land. Chloe looked at the crawling symbols again, and a shadow of recognition crossed her eyes. There, then gone, like a lighthouse blink no one else knew how to read. She set the mop against the wall with surgical care. The siren inhaled for a longer scream. The next choice would decide what lived and what drowned. The room became a war drum. Keystrokes hammered. Fans roared. The siren's red eye pulsed like a wound that wouldn't clot. Ethan hunched over the console, jaw set, lines of defense unfurling like barricades thrown into a flood. "Segmenting East Cluster," he muttered, "dropping non-essential services, rerouting Orth." Lucas fired off a firewall policy, then another. "Inline IPS is live, pattern match on the glyph stream, quarantine on site." The code flowed around their efforts with infuriating grace, finding seams that shouldn't exist, whispering through vents no one knew were there. Windows flashed blocked, then bypassed, then a mocking thanks for the tour in ASCII art, before dissolving back into static. Cole loomed behind them, a storm pressed into a suit. "Faster," he hissed. "This is basic. Do your jobs." Ethan's shoulders rose and fell. "They're improvising in real time." "So improvise harder," Lucas snapped. "That's not how protocols—" He bit the rest in half, eyes sinking back to the screen. "Deploying honeypot. Make them chew glass." For a heartbeat, the attack slowed, sniffed, then pivoted. The honeypot pinged once, acknowledged, and the intruder sidestepped it with elegant contempt, like a dancer avoiding a puddle. A new banner slid up. Credentials verified. Hello, Lucas. Lucas went white. They cloned my token. Cole pounced. Because you're sloppy. We rotate every 90 minutes, Ethan shot back. This isn't sloppy. This is someone who knows our dance steps. Cole slammed his palm on the table. The glass rang like a low bell. I don't care about choreography. Care about results. Shut them down. Ethan triggered an out-of-band breaker. Lights hiccuped. The far wall blinked to black and back. The room steadied, and the intruder bloomed brighter, borrowing their darkness like oxygen. Fallback nodes engaged. Override accepted. Cole's face flushed a dangerous red. You're embarrassing me. Lucas's hands trembled. He locked his wrists to stop it. Trying internal choke, squeezing the bus. The bus squealed in protest. Packets backed up like traffic under a broken light. The glyph stream simply split, forking into thinner threads that seeped through. Nice Try winked in the corner before vanishing. Enough, Cole barked. If you two can't handle a keyboard, I'll find people who can. He leaned between them, breath hot, voice colder. This company does not kneel. Not to children, not to thieves, not to rumors about some hacker cult chasing a secret revealed flaw. Chloe stood near the wall, still as a metronome marking a tempo only she could hear. Her gaze tracked the patterns, following not the noise but the timing, the way the cymbals breathed, the way a lull came after every seventh surge, the way the attack favored the lintel no one touched. Ethan wiped his forehead with the back of his hand. They're reaching for vault indices. 30 seconds, maybe less. Then burn it, Cole said. I'll rebuild. You can't rebuild lost trust, Lucas whispered. Cole turned on him like a knife. Then lie better. He pointed at Chloe without taking his eyes off the screen. You stop standing there. Do something useful. Coffee, towels, I don't care. Chloe didn't move. The perimeter isn't where you think it is, she said softly. Cole's laugh was almost feral. And the sky isn't blue. Thank you for the poetry. Ethan's voice cracked. They're in the ledger now. The sound that followed was small and merciless, the soft chime of a door you forgot to lock, opening from the inside. On the center display, an icon changed shape, subtle, predatory. Vault handshake initiated. Cole's mouth thinned. You let them. Your policies let them, Ethan said. Your arrogance fed them, Lucas added, too tired to be afraid. The siren held its breath. The room hung over the edge, waiting to fall. Chloe's glove creaked as her fist tightened once, then released. She stepped forward until the screens painted her in cobalt. Don't, Cole snapped. Stay in your lane. Chloe's eyes never left the code. I'm exactly where I need to be. The handshake counter ticked. 3, 2. The next second would choose a ruin, or a reckoning. Cole Vance's composure cracked like ice under a boot. He slammed both hands on the glass table. The room answered with a low, wounded ring. Nobody breathes until this is fixed, he snarled, voice shredding at the edges. He jabbed at the main screen where Vault handshake blinked like a metronome counting down a life. Ethan, kill it. Lucas, nuke the subnet. If you brick 1 million devices, I'll buy 1 million more. Ethan's pupils jittered between windows. If we nuke, we trigger their failsafe. It'll propagate corruption into cold storage. I said nuke, Cole hissed. I don't pay you to tremble. I pay you to jump when I say jump. Lucas's fingers slipped on the keys. He clenched them until the tremor hid. We need a surgical block on the opcode they're using for the handshake spoof. What we need, Cole said, leaning in so close the blue wash hollowed his face, is compliance. I will not be humiliated by children in hoodies, or by staff who confuse a mop with a mandate. His eyes knifed toward Chloe without fully seeing her. You, door, guard it. If legal calls, I'm in a meeting. Chloe didn't move. The siren strobed, heartbeat, 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 and in its rhythm she heard a familiar syncopation. She stepped closer to the displays, breathing steady, tracking the glyph stream with her eyes, the way a musician tracks a melody woven under noise. Her glove creaked, a soft confession of tension. Cole stalked the length of the table and back, a predator trapped in its own glass cage. "If this costs me even 1 point off market open," he spat, "I will end careers, I will salt earth, I will—" He bit the sentence, swallowed rage like something sour. "Lucas, reroute to the Denver Mirror. Ethan, cut San Jose. Prioritize defense clients. Tell everyone else we're doing routine maintenance. Do not use the word breach. If PR so much as breathes an adjective, I'll—" "It's too late," Ethan said. He stabbed a key. The wall blossomed with client pings, urgent, multiplying like a rash. They can see outage patterns. Someone's already posted a tracer route. Cole's hand shook once, a flicker he strangled into a fist. He banged the table again. "This is beneath us. I built this fortress. I don't lose." "Then stop shouting at the walls," Lucas said, breath thin. "They don't care." Chloe's voice came like a thread through storm. "That wasn't a public payload," she said quietly, eyes on a sequence that fluttered every 7th burst. "It's bespoke, written for your vault, for your runbooks, for your habits." Ethan and Lucas turned. Cole did not. "Speak again, and you're gone," he said, the words automatic. He pointed at Ethan. "Purge keys 6 through 9. Purge is irreversible. So is failure." Chloe tilted her head, listening. The code didn't just move, it remembered. The surge pause, the pivot to the lintel no one touched, the mocking detours. She knew that grammar. Years ago, in a different life, she'd built something elegant as this and then buried it with the rest of her, a talent wrapped in grief and left to die. The ache returned like an old scar in rain. Across the glass, the handshake counter resumed. 3, 2. The siren inhaled. The fans rose. Ethan whispered a prayer he didn't finish. Cole's palm hovered above the keyboard like a judge's gavel, ready to smash whatever button felt like power. Chloe stepped into the cobalt light. "Cole," she said, not loud, but it cut. He glanced, finally truly looking at her. The room paused. Sirens, screens, breath, all suspended a fraction. "I know that code," she said. 1. The system held its breath at 1, ready to open, or to be stopped by the only person the room had refused to see. "I know that code," Chloe said, and the room snapped taut as wire. Cole blinked, thrown off script for a fraction. Then his smile returned, meaner for having faltered. "You know it?" He chuckled, low and theatrical. "From what? YouTube after your shift? Spare us." Ethan didn't laugh. His head tilted the way a dog hears a distant train. "What do you mean you know it?" Chloe's eyes followed the glyph stream, lips moving without sound as she counted the rhythm. 7 bursts, a half-beat rest, pivot to the lintel. "It favors orphan ports," she murmured. "Masks as telemetry, then rides audit pings. And the handshake. See that wobble? It's deliberate. A decoy checksum to make you chase ghosts." Lucas leaned in despite himself. "That wobble is why my filter keeps misfiring." Cole cut the air with his hand. "Enough. Both of you. We don't take operational advice from a—" He swallowed the word, but the sneer delivered it anyway. Chloe didn't flinch. She stepped closer, cobalt painting her jawline, and pointed to a pattern tucked under the flood. "Here. They inverted your key rotation order. You train your staff left-right. Key 6, then 7, then 9. Her finger traced the opposite path. They walked it right-left, like a mirror. Whoever wrote this knows how your wrists move." Ethan's gaze flicked to Cole's hands, how he favored his right, how he drummed the table before typing. "She's not wrong," he whispered. Cole bristled. "She's guessing. Keep typing." A chime, cold, clinical, cut through the argument. Vault handshake. 1. Held on screen, not dropping, not advancing. Waiting. Taunting. Chloe's voice flattened into something technical, all soft edges folded away. "It's a staged handshake. They're measuring your reaction time to choose the next fork." She looked at Ethan. "If you move now, you hand them path A. If you stall, they pivot to path B. Both are traps." Lucas swallowed. "Then what?" "You draw them into a third path that looks like a mistake." Her eyes drifted to the stale honeypot still blinking like a sad porch light. "You give them a floor that collapses on timing, not content." Cole laughed, clapping once. "Marvelous theater. Does the cleaning lady also sell tickets after she squeegees the glass?" Chloe's stare cut to him, steady as a level. "This room is your theater," she said. "You just don't know who's holding the lights." Ethan's restraint snapped. "Cole, let her talk." Cole wheeled on him. "You work for me. Right now, I work for survival." Silence pressed in, heavy as water. The fans screamed. The siren's pulse stretched until it trembled. On a side display, a tiny text string bloomed. "Hello, Chloe," then vanished. So quick, it could have been a trick of fatigue. Lucas gasped. Did anyone else?" "I saw it," Ethan said. Cole's eyes finally landed on Chloe, not as furniture, but as a problem he hadn't modeled. "How would you know this code?" he asked, voice low. Chloe's answer barely disturbed the air. "Because I wrote its bones once," she said. "For defense systems no one remembers anymore. In another life. Before I decided to disappear." Ethan's mouth parted. Lucas stared. Cole's laugh died unborn. The main display flickered, once, twice, and a new prompt overlaid the handshake. "Override token, legacy, enter." The cursor blinked like a heartbeat under a scalpel. Cole rounded the table, putting himself between the screen and Chloe, as if his body could hold the breach at bay. "No," he said, voice tight. "You don't touch my systems." Chloe peeled one glove back with a soft rip, the sound of a scab lifting. Her bare fingers hovered over the edge of the table, inches from the keyboard, inches from history. The cursor kept blinking. The room forgot to breathe. The cursor blinked, blinked, blinked. Every beat a countdown, every pause a dare. Ethan's throat worked. It's waiting. It wants a response. Lucas rubbed his temples, eyes bloodshot. "We're out of time. Cole, if she knows something..." Cole's fist slammed the table, a crack echoing through glass and chrome. "She doesn't know. She's stalling. A janitor with delusions of grandeur. Sit down, both of you. I won't watch my empire turned into a circus act." His voice shook on empire, the word half lost to the siren's wail. The screens convulsed, maps dissolving into chaos. Endpoints winked out, clusters toppled like dominoes in fast forward. A global feed scrolled down the margin. Clients reporting system failure. Banks, hospitals, airlines. The empire was already bleeding into the street. Lucas whispered, "They're seeing it outside. It's public now." Ethan's voice cracked. "Cole, this isn't optics, it's collapse." Cole's face twisted, rage, fear, pride, all fighting for the same breath. He pointed at Chloe like a blade. "You move one finger toward that console and you're out of this building, out of this city. You'll never work anywhere again. Do you understand me?" Chloe didn't blink. Her hazel eyes locked on the scrolling glyphs, as though they were lines of music only she could hear. She slid her glove fully off, folding it neatly before placing it beside the bucket. Then she raised her bare hand toward the keyboard. "Stop!" Cole roared, stepping between her and the screen. His shadow cut across her face, but she didn't lower her hand. Her voice came quiet, even. "You'd rather lose it all than admit someone else might save it." The silence after was heavier than the alarms. Even Ethan and Lucas froze watching the standoff. Cole's lips parted, searching for another insult, another order, but the words caught in his throat. On the main display, the handshake counter surged again. "Force execution in 15, 14, 13. Ethan's voice dropped to a plea. "Chloe, if you know something, anything, please, tell us." Lucas turned to Cole, desperation cracking his composure. "Let her try. We don't have a choice." Cole spun on them, eyes wide, betrayed. "You'd side with her over me? With a stranger who scrubs our floors," Ethan whispered. "At least she sees what we can't." The siren shrieked higher, lights stuttering overhead. The servers coughed, monitors jittered, then froze on a jagged warning. "Core system failure imminent." Cole's breath came fast, ragged. His hand trembled at his side. For the first time, the great billionaire CEO looked small, a man cornered by the machine he thought he owned. And Chloe, calm, grounded, her hand hovering above the console, was the only steady pulse in the room. 10, 9, 8. The choice was seconds away, and she was done waiting for permission. Chloe stepped through Cole's shadow as if it were smoke. Her bare fingers met the keyboard with a soft clack, polite, decisive. The room flinched as if she'd cut a live wire. Cole reached to yank her back. Ethan caught his wrist mid-air, grip firm, eyes flat. 2 seconds, Ethan said. Give her 2. Lucas slid aside, breath held, watching Chloe's hands find a rhythm older than the siren. Her typing wasn't frantic. It was musical. Staccato, then legato, then a precise pause, like she was coaxing a locked door to remember how to open. On screen, the force execution counter faltered at 7 and held, confused. Chloe spoke while she worked, voice low, almost clinical. You trained your fortress to worship symmetry, she said. It made you efficient. It made you predictable. Her fingers tapped a hidden console, summoning a dusty module labeled Orion Legacy. Years ago, my team built this skeleton for a defense contractor. I married a man who lived and died inside those deadlines. The words came without wobble, just weathered truth. He coded for 40 hours straight to ship a failover I begged him not to own. He collapsed at his desk under a fluorescent hum, just like this one. A small inhale. I buried him. Then I buried the part of me that could ever love code. Cole's face tightened, rage hunting for a purchase that grief denied. What does that tragic monologue have to do with my vault? Chloe didn't look up. Your attacker learned our old bones. They forked the handshake into A or B because that's how we taught the machine to think. She dragged a window no one had touched in years. But there was a third path we never documented. I wrote it and walked away. She entered 6 characters that weren't letters so much as muscle memory. Override token, legacy. Accepted blinked green. A tiny miracle. The glyph stream shivered, then lunged, angry, reactive. Chloe exhaled, fingers dancing through a feint. She opened the stale honey pot, left one panel crooked on purpose and whispered to Lucas, Count 7 surges. On the half beat, pull the decoy key, not the real one. Lucas counted under his breath. On the half beat, Chloe flicked a timing fuse. The intruder chose the crooked floor she'd laid and plunged. Elegant malice turned clumsy by misread rhythm. Ethan stared as system calls inverted. She's collapsing them into a sandbox. Into an oubliette, Chloe corrected softly. A place you forget how to exit. On the displays, the red banners peeled back like storm clouds breaking. Access revoked. Escalation failed. Client nodes relit. First a hospital cluster, then a bank lattice, then the agitated grey of an airline network breathing again. The siren staggered, coughed and fell silent, leaving only the oceanic hush of fans coming down from panic. Cole's mouth opened, shut. You blocked them? Chloe's eyes were dark, steady. I boxed them. Now I'm closing the lid. She typed a final sequence, left, right, pause, double tap, and a white square appeared on black. Session sealed. For a heartbeat, the room was a cathedral. No one spoke. Ethan sagged back, laughing once in disbelief, tears he didn't authorize bright in his eyes. Lucas covered his mouth, then dropped his hand, gawking at the dashboard's blooming hole. You did it, he whispered. You did it. Cole forced a breath into something like composure. He smoothed his jacket, reached for the narrative like a lifeline. Good. You executed my directives. We'll issue a statement. He tried a smile that didn't stick. Competence under pressure. Teamwork. Chloe slid the keyboard away with 2 fingers, as if returning a borrowed weapon. No, she said, and the word sat squarely on the glass. You ignored me. You mocked me. You told me I was a cleaner. Her gaze met his, unwavering. I saved your empire because lives were stitched to these systems. Cole's jaw hardened. And for that you'll get a bonus and... Chloe shook her head once. For that, I'll get what I'm owed. Cole took a step, then another, trying to reclaim height the room no longer gave him. What exactly do you think you're owed? Chloe peeled off her other glove, laid both beside the bucket like a folded flag, and stepped into the center of the cobalt wash. The screens reflected her in a ring of quiet power. The chair, she said. I want your chair. Silence cracked. Ethan didn't breathe. Lucas's eyes flicked between them like a metronome. Cole laughed, a brittle, glassy sound. You're delirious. Chloe's chin lifted a degree. I'm done being invisible. She nodded at the head seat. Sit if you like, but listen. The only way this company keeps breathing is if I lead. She let the next words land like a stamp. Make me CEO. The room held that impossible shape for a count of 3. Then the glass doors sighed and distant footsteps approached. Legal, PR, vultures to a miracle. The crown was in motion, and the throne had not yet decided who owned it. The glass doors burst open, spilling a flood of polished shoes and tailored suits. Legal staff, PR managers, assistants clutching tablets, all charging in with eyes wide and questions firing. What happened? Why are the feeds down? Cole, clients are... But the room froze when they saw Chloe standing in the cobalt glow, gloves folded on the bucket, like a flag of surrender that was anything but surrender. The dashboards behind her pulsed with restored order. The collapse had been stopped, and everyone knew who had stopped it. Cole Vance, usually magnetic under cameras, looked cracked, sweat on his temples, collar tugged open, voice brittle. We neutralized the threat, he stammered, reaching for his script. I led my team. Lucas cut in, voice steady, clear. She neutralized it, he pointed to Chloe. We were seconds from losing everything. She boxed the intruder. She saved the company. Ethan backed him. Not us, not Cole, Chloe. The room shifted. Heads turned, whispers multiplied like sparks in dry grass. The myth of Cole's invincibility bled out across the polished floor. Cole's laugh came hollow. You're out of line. She's staff. A cleaner. The word cracked in his mouth. Poison turned weak. Chloe stepped forward, wiping nothing from her hands. Her voice was low even, every syllable deliberate. You told me I'd never be a CEO. She let the echo hang. You were right. I wasn't. Until now. The staff held still. Even the sirens seemed to wait. Cole squared his shoulders, last fragments of pride clinging. You can't demand. Yes, I can. Chloe's eyes locked on him. Without me, your empire burns. Without me, hospitals shut down, banks lose billions, airlines fall from the sky. I did this, not you, not them. Me. And I don't clean floors anymore. Her hand brushed the head chair, fingers resting lightly on the leather, claiming it without sitting. I want the title, the authority, the power you hoard while others suffer. You'll make me CEO, Cole, or you'll explain to the board why their fortress crumbled until a woman you mocked picked it up and carried it. Gasps, murmurs. The staff glanced at each other, calculating futures. Cole looked from face to face, hunting loyalty and finding only silence. Ethan and Lucas stood firm, a quiet barricade at Chloe's back. The screens rolled numbers again, not Cole's graphs of glory, but Chloe's signature. Session sealed, restored by user C. Rivera. The truth was carved into the machine itself. Cole's lips moved without sound. Pride fought, staggered, fell. Finally, the man who mocked the maid lowered his eyes. Fine, he muttered. You want the chair? Take it. Chloe's hand tightened on the leather. She turned, met the eyes of every technician, every lawyer, every assistant. Then she sat, calm, steady, unapologetic. The room shifted around her as though the architecture itself recognized a new gravity. Ethan exhaled in relief. Lucas smiled, faint and reverent. Cole stood beside her, diminished, his empire no longer his. The poor maid, the cleaning lady no one saw, had risen. She had demanded her worth, and the fortress had crowned her. And for the first time in that glass cathedral of power, justice felt louder than money. The room that once echoed with Cole Vance's arrogance now stood in silence. The fortress was safe, the empire still alive. But the crown had shifted. Chloe Rivera sat in the chair he swore she would never touch. Ethan and Lucas looked at her with respect, not pity. The staff, once blind to her presence, now recognized her as the one who carried them through the storm. Even Cole, defeated, could not deny it. Pride had broken him. Her dignity had rebuilt everything. Chloe's journey was not about revenge alone. It was about reclaiming the worth stolen from her. She had been invisible, humiliated, underestimated. Yet in the darkest moment, she showed that true power doesn't come from money or titles. It comes from courage, from resilience, from refusing to stay small. And in that glass cathedral of power, one truth remained. Dignity cannot be erased, and the quiet ones are often the ones who rise the highest. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this heart-touching story. Tell us in the comments which part moved you the most. Subscribe and turn on the bell to receive more stories that inspire and transform. Leave a like if you believe in the invisible strength of dignity and family. And above all, thank you for being part of this community that believes in stories with soul. And before you go, watch the story I leave here on the left. I'm sure it will also move you and make you reflect.